Ground level theology, breaking it down, making the complex simple. No need to frown, bringing the wisdom from the tower to the street. Making theology enjoyable for everyone we meet. No need for big words, no need for fuss. Ground level theology for all of us. Exploring the depths, unraveling the mysteries, taking on a challenge, simplifying histories. Ground level theology, oh yeah, making sense of the concepts, loud and clear. No need to be a scholar, no need to be elite. Ground level theology, making it sweet.
Back at it again. Ground level theology is back. As always, with me is the co-host to Ground Level Theology, Dave Hoffman. Dave, welcome back.
Thanks, y'all. Howdy.
Man, it's almost hard to get started after that groove, you know. I'm very tempted to just upload that so I can listen to the whole thing on loop.
I know, it's like you listen to it and it's like, that's awesome. All right, see you later. And then we just cut out.
What's funny is before we
Any good
even
vibes.
actually like met up, you know, to record this episode and you were getting set up, I had our loop on at the end of the episode. I had that on loop and I was just doing that while I was setting up my end and stuff. So it's like,
There you
folks,
go.
we don't put up music that we don't like.
Definitely not. Yeah. I don't always listen to my own podcast. I don't want to try to hear myself talk, but I'll definitely listen to our intro song.
Yeah.
Like definitely.
Oh man. All right. Well, folks, we have a wonderful episode today. We have a relevant episode today. We haven't done one of these in a while, and this is one that's actually going on right now, but something that's kind of pervaded for some time. This is something that keeps reoccurring, and that is culture versus Jesus. Why is it that culture keeps striking at Christians? Why is it that culture keeps fighting against Christianity in particular at the expense of all other religions? We see that we are distinctly singled out and discriminated against, and yet other religions remain relatively unscathed by contrast. I'm just thinking of a few things here myself, Dave. Like the Masterpiece Cake Shop, that one got singled out. You know, no Muslim bakers, no Jewish bakers, none of those people, you know, got taken to court. And yet this one person was taken to court, I think 3 times now. I think he's still in court for the third time. So they keep taking him to court. It's been all this time. He spent a lot of money, but praise Jesus for Christians who have funded him this so he can fight in um, the courts, and that creates precedent for us to be able to then use in the court system when we're taken to court. So that's a big win, but they're not taking other religions to court for these things. The Sparkle Creed, right? We went over this in season one and even at the beginning of this season, right? God cannot be the Father. He cannot be the Father. It needs to be some ambiguous thing, and yet Jesus can have two dads. You know, it's like the ambiguity of, hey, I will do whatever works for me so long as it is against you. And they're creating this fervor, this zeal of, I will use anything to beat Christianity, but not to the expense of any other religion. I mean, what was it? A few years ago, what was it? Costco or Walmart had the controversy that the Bible was put in the fiction section and was labeled fiction. Um,
Yeah.
there's just so much. I mean, can you think of any as well? Because man,
Oh,
there's
definitely. And I mean, I remember the Costco thing because it was just like, it's still a historical document. Consider it like, even if you don't agree with it, it's a historical document. It's like the
yeah,
Constitution. You don't have to agree with I would highly recommend it, but you don't have to agree with the Constitution, but it's a historical document. And I know other times of, oh, I think, well, like, St. Paul's is non-denominational, but we're very reformed. Reformed theology is pretty much Presbyterian.
yeah,
It's a lot of good Puritans were Presbyterian, and I think I had friends and local people that were in the presbytery of that Presbyterian church, where it was that trans uh, man, so that young lady who actually was a former student there, came and killed and
yeah.
went in there uh, and shot up that school,
Hmm.
that Presbyterian private school. And and I'm not trying to say pro 2A, not pro 2A argument here. That's for a different time. But I am trying to say I have seen liberals are more in favor of gun control. It's a driving force in the narrative about certain guns that need to be banned, certain firearms that we shouldn't be seeing in people's hands. We think about how we need to protect our kids from these crazy people that go in shooting up schools, and we really didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah.
It was Christian news stations, it was Christian blogs, it was maybe some local news, but trust me, it was not as big of a deal if maybe another person
Oh,
had been responsible for the crime, or if it
yeah.
might not have been a church or a Christian school, but a mosque or a synagogue or a public school, or uh, and then the irony though is also, the person that did the crime was seen as the victim. The
Yeah.
irony is that not
Hmm.
only are we seeing like culture versus Jesus, where are Christians just being singled out, but now they're seen as the hate group. The irony.
For yeah,
Uh,
for getting shot up, for becoming the victim of many things. They were seen as sort of the bad guy in the scenario. And yeah, that's honestly one of the like the perfect examples of this as well. I mean, you can have you can have things like 9/11, you can have things like October 7th and all these things. And then what happens in the mainstream media is we need to not be Islamophobic. We need to make sure that what we're not doing is being Islamophobic and coming against Muslims saying that they're all this way. And yet when a trans person shoots up a Presbyterian church, it's like, okay, we're not really going to
crickets.
talk about this. The problem is guns, and there was a victim who shot up everyone, and we really need to be giving, support to the trans community for this. And like completely absent of all of this, if
Yeah,
it's even covered, is Christians who died.
yeah.
Not
Well,
because
no,
they
and
wanted to,
no,
because they were simply worshiping at their location, and someone else who was evil killed them. And yet there was no coverage of that, as you said, unless it was like specific private, our side type people that were shedding light to that.
yeah, it wasn't national. Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
was not national. And it's sad to see, because, and trust me, and I'm not trying to say, oh, hey, we only report on these. No, it's sad, but can we at least be fair and say like, hey, they're wrong too?
Yeah.
Like, good. Um, and because I don't want to see that happen anywhere ever.
Right.
Okay, it's not like, oh, I'm only up in arms about it because it happened to a Presbyterian private school where I know someone. Look, I don't need to know someone at the school. Okay, I care about our kids. I do. Um, and so it's really sad to see. And I also know there's, you think about Saturday Night Live too. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
never,
yeah. That's a
I
big
couldn't
one.
really watch it a whole ton anyway because it came on so late and I wanted to go to bed. But
Yeah, I
but
didn't.
other
I
than
never
that,
watched
like,
it
it
because I
used to
never
be
thought it was
funny.
that funny.
Well,
I
see, like,
I was a
I
Mad
used to
TV
like it.
guy.
Okay. No, okay. Now, Mad TV, that was okay. We're talking. Okay.
Yeah,
Y'all, that
you're
was.
right. You're right.
You have to remember, I was like 13 going, ooh, you know, like watching TV. I'm up past my bedtime.
Hmm.
But like, and I did watch some Mad TV too. It was pretty funny. But like SNL was because I'm thinking like the org, like Will Ferrell,
Yeah.
Adam Sandler, like when it really was also a time, you know, the Lord probably like, hey, we shouldn't make fun of anybody, but at least at that time, everybody was fair game.
Yeah.
You couldn't like you could if you were mad, you couldn't be mad for too long because like, well, they're not singling me out, like, or they're not singling anyone out. They make fun of everybody. We're being made fun of together. How inclusive. But nowadays, and I can actually think of several skits that maybe was like, you know what, I can stay up, but I'm not watching it because they are just finding ways to mock my savior,
Yeah.
and then I end up pitying them more than I'm like angry because like, oh man, like I hope you find the Lord because He's gonna come back, and
Yeah.
like His name, like God is not mocked, you know, you reap what you sow.
Yeah. They'll make fun of Christians. I mean, at liberal, just as many times as they can. They'll have, Christian characters just to be the butt of jokes, or to be the weird people, in skits. But you don't see that with Muslims. You don't see that with, these other religions. If there's going to be a Buddhist in there, it's going to be the wise, tranquil person, but the Christian, always the butt of the joke, always terrible. um and so, yeah, we have places like SNL. They refuse to do that. I mean, they won't joke about Islam. Islam says this too. I mean, the Muslims will say, Christians are weak because they allow people to make fun of them, but no one will make fun of our religion, right? And that's because we're strong. And it's like, yeah, actually, there's a point there because people are too afraid because Muslims will literally behead you and go crazy. But why are they protected then? Why are Christians mocked so relentlessly, so ruthlessly, and yet none of the other religions are being mocked? And so, I mean, we got to ask these questions here. I remember there was a time in YouTube when if you even talked about Muhammad, tried to convey any images, because in Islam you're not allowed to even have an image of Muhammad, or Allah or anything like that. If you sought to do that, YouTube would take your channel down. They'll take that down and they'll try and take your channel down. So it was like they were very protective of Muslims as well. And yet, existing on the internet was just countless videos of mocking Christians. It's like culture is distinctly against Christians, not against religions, not against any other religions. Christians. Culture is against Christians. I mean, we saw this kind of recently with the Olympics, right? We covered this in the preseason episode. The surfer was told even before the Olympics, hey, get that Jesus off your board. But then when the Olympic opening ceremony came down, they had every god but Jesus there in the beginning. It was like, I mean, it was just distinctly against Jesus, distinctly against Christianity. And more recent is actually something that I wanted to bring up now, and this will be a springboard to coming back and talking about culture and why it's so against Jesus, why it's so against Christianity. But folks, having just come up in the news, maybe you guys have heard of it. Maybe it's not really on your radar just yet. But Coke is under fire. There is a scandal. Coca-Cola is um, getting some backlash amongst the Christian community. And I think I want to bring this up a little bit more because we've seen this happen not just with Coca-Cola, but in other instances many times before. Coca-Cola allows you to design your own Coke can. You can personalize your Coke can with any name. You can put, Pastor Mike, and you can drink your Coke that says Pastor Mike, or you can, have one that says wife, or loved one, or just whatever their name might be, or I love you, and that way you have a souvenir personalized Coke can that you can gift someone. But what someone noted recently in a video is that what you could not do was put the name Jesus on the Coke can. There's a lot of other things you can put on the Coke can, but you can't put Jesus. Jesus is apparently not allowed as an option on a Coke can. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Of course, as always, I need to just quickly adjust it. But I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about this. I'm just pulling this up. Folks on Spotify, you will be able to hear it. He pretty much narrates it. Alrighty, here it is.
So at the Coke store, you can personalize a message. You can put Allah loves you. Or you could even put, let me see, let's just try it out. Buddha loves you. But you cannot even type in the word Jesus. We cannot allow this text on the can. Everything else is good though. Even if I put, let's see, Satan.
Oh no, bro.
Hold on. Satan loves you. You can put that. You can put Satan loves you, Allah loves you, Buddha loves you. But when you type in this word, you can't even type the word in. That's crazy. That's ridiculous.
All right. And let me just take this down so it doesn't accidentally hit play. So there you have it, folks on Spotify. You heard it. What you didn't see is a guy at a Coke kiosk. I didn't even know those existed, but apparently they do if you want to design your can and get one.
Probably downtown Disney.
Yeah,
probably,
something
there's
like
a
that.
huge Coke store. They have Coke stores.
As he's typing it in, and there's this screen there, you can type in Allah, you can type in Buddha, but the moment you type in JESU and then hit that final S, it doesn't come up until that final S is hit and you complete Jesus, that it just outright blocks and says, hey, you can't spell this word. But you can spell Satan, you can spell Buddha, you can spell Allah, you can spell all these other things. And in fact, people have been testing this. So even going onto the site to try and design a can or even a shirt, people have tested the bounds of this. Jesus is not allowed. Jesus is not allowed on any of these platforms, but you can type in, and I read this, I saw a couple other videos, and so I've read a few articles on this from people that have covered it. Obviously not the major medias are covering it. Because they don't want to bring this to light. So it's always the private medias that have to bring this to light. But so here's what we have allowed. Muhammad is allowed. Buddha is allowed. Satan, as you heard, was allowed. The devil is allowed. So someone was able to say the devil loves you. Type that all out. Even Baphomet was allowed. That straight up satanic figure. And then they even tried Baal. All of that was allowed. But what was not allowed was the name Jesus. Anywhere in the sentence, you can say, if you tried to say Jesus loves you, you were stopped there. If you tried to type in I love Jesus, the moment you typed in that last S, you were blocked from being able to do it. So the name Jesus is what is not allowed. And yet you can have all these other figures that weren't allowed. Peculiarly enough as well, as to what wasn't allowed in one video was Trump wasn't allowed. And the person deleted that and also put in Harris, and Harris was allowed. So we have something very peculiar happening here at Coca-Cola. And it's against Jesus. Apparently, you can't be a Jesus follower. Apparently, you can't be a Christian. Apparently, you can't write Jesus loves you on a can. Yet you can put in Satan loves you. You can put in the devil loves you, or Baphomet loves you, or Muhammad loves you, but you can't put Jesus loves you. Um, Terrible, terrible things that we're seeing happening here. Now, I do want to say Coke has responded. I wasn't able to get an official statement from Coke, but I have seen that Coke has responded, and they said that names and phrases may not be approved if they are trademarked, political in nature, names of countries, celebrities, religious figures, or anything that would be considered offensive. So that's their statement. I think it's kind of funny because there's two ways that they can go about it with this, religious figures or trademarked, because technically Jesus is trademarked under copyright laws with like ESV and stuff. But
So's my name and so's Mike's, by the way.
yeah, exactly. So there's
Any
there's a
biblical
lot,
name.
yeah, there's a lot going on there. Um, but that's what they responded with. So they're trying to cover their butts here and saying, hey, we don't allow any religious figures to be put on the can. But as we just said and as we just saw, Allah, Muhammad, Buddha, the devil, Baphomet, all these people, all these names can be put on a can, but yet not Jesus. Now,
Oh my
David,
God.
I'm going to bring this back to you. I've been talking here for a quick bit, but I just wanted to say this as well. Folks, just so you know, in the USA, 240,000 people are named Jesus. In Latin America, it is one of the 12th most popular names today, which means, you know, there's a lot of people named Jesus. I have some cousins named Jesus. That's not a stereotypical joke. I'm being serious. There's a lot of people in my family that are named Jesus or Jesus, right? Jesus, extremely common name. And yet, because they are so against Christianity, the religious figure, that they have discriminated against something like 250,000 people in the USA and a lot of people in Latin America because of who Jesus is, because of where that name comes from, because it's Christian, because you cannot have the name Jesus on a can. David, I'm gonna toss it back to you here.
I would love, I would love to be in Coca-Cola's PR department or like their marketing room, right? Like a fly on the wall, be like, okay, how are we gonna figure this out? Like, I wish I could be the guy, like interviewing them, like, oh, okay, yeah, you said, okay, I got it, trademark, political in nature, name of countries, yeah, I get it. So are you saying that Buddha, Allah, Muhammad are not religious figures? Just come back at them. Okay, like I get it.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
yeah. You took out Jesus because he's a religious figure, so they're not. Like, you know what I mean? And then just
Yeah.
like see that, and it's okay. Now I know Coca-Cola is banned in the Middle East anyway. No, I'm just kidding. You got to fact check me on that. I'm just joking. No, I have no idea if that's true
Oh
or
no,
not.
they're probably celebrating this. They're like, Alhamdulillah, we're winning.
Yeah,
See, Islam is
yes, the
true because
Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Very
even
good,
Coca-Cola bows to
Coca-Cola.
Allah.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And I would also like to go to one of them kiosks and see if I can like, be all cheeky and be like, Christ is king. Ha
Hmm.
ha. Got it on
Yeah,
my can,
I
loser.
I'm like
But
I'm tempted to go on the website and see if I can do some stuff like
no,
that.
don't give them your money.
No, you don't have to. Like, if you're
Uh,
trying to order it and then you confirm it and then
that's
it
true.
brings you to the next window, that's how you know. Like, it won't even let you
Oh,
click
okay.
go on to the next one because it like blocks that.
Okay. Because I'm like, I don't want to, like, even if I could do it, I still am not going to buy a can from you
Yeah.
now. I'm met. And now, and you know what? And there's another thing, real quick. As a NASCAR fan living in Charlotte, Memorial Day weekend, the Coca Cola 600, known as one of the greatest days in racing, mm, NASCAR, they might have, mm, they might be willing to be like, sorry, bye, we won't let you sponsor it. We'll
Yeah.
find someone else who's willing to sponsor it later. And I'm not trying to be all, you know, bigoted, and I'm a white
Hmm.
person who I'm a Christian, white, male, all the other ways I can offend you. Sorry. But it's like, and he likes NASCAR and prayer. But and that day is a crazy day because it's loud, fast cars. Who doesn't like loud, fast cars? I literally saw Black Hawk helicopters flying over my head while hearing Lee Greenwood singing "I'm Proud to Be an American."
Hmm.
And then I had a local pastor pray that everybody stayed safe during the race and praising the Lord for gasoline
Yeah.
and loud engines, which is like sounds like an a communist's nightmare. But
Yeah.
but I say all that where it's like they sponsor that race, and so
Yeah.
hmm,
I gotta say,
I'd be interested to
honestly,
see.
it hurts me to see this. That I have been a lifelong Coca-Cola diehard.
Same
Never
here. I love it.
Pepsi. You know, even through my teens, going to restaurants, I'll have a Coke. Is Pepsi okay?
Coca-Cola.
No, I'll have a water instead. Like legit, I'll do that. You know, Bob's Big Boy, I'm drinking a chocolate Coke. Love cherry Coke. But I
Oh, dude.
honestly, as a Christian at this point, I'm thinking, all right, I'll probably go to like Shasta Cola, see if RC Cola is still around or something. You know, I'm gonna have to find a different cola in the meantime, because this is serious. I mean, it's as you pointed out, Dave. I mean, you can try and dance around it, but at the end of the day, you didn't put these type of restrictions on any other category except for Jesus, a Christian category. So you attacked us. This is a huge opening for Pepsi. If anything, if Pepsi can come in with, hey, we're all inclusive to everyone, and then have like Jesus or a Christian or something in all the religions, they're coming in huge to swoop up that Christian market, and maybe even try and be part of the NASCAR thing and swoop into all their deals. Honestly, it's a perfect opportunity for Pepsi, you know, if they want to come off as conservative and stuff. But yeah, very, very bad move on Coke. And
That would be
and it's like,
awesome. Do 500. Oh, I mean that. I mean
yeah,
Mountain Dew's pretty great.
yeah. Well, I'm about Mountain
Sorry.
Dew, that's for sure. Um,
Baja. It'll be a Baja Blast.
yeah. Yeah, huge, huge blunder by Coke, and I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out on this. I mean, I'm sure this is the first sort of PR thing put out there. I'm sure that they're going to try and figure something else out. We'll see what they do. I'm hoping they don't try and sweep it under the rug, or maybe even I'll check maybe even later to see if it's possible to be done now and if they fix that. Um, yeah, but that's a huge blunder. But I mean, this is all of this is pointing to a bigger picture of, as we started with the segment and as we noted with before, culture is just distinctly against Christianity. And notice they don't do this against, you know, names that are Joseph, like Joseph Smith, or Mormons or JWs. They do this distinctly with Orthodox Christians, evangelical Christians. Christianity is what is being attacked, not anyone else. I mean, and just as we were talking before, I mean, I sort of just thought of one as well. I mean, as Christians are at abortion clinics and they're praying out there, they get arrested, and yet you can have pro-Palestine people going to universities and just destroying whole buildings, setting fire to police stations and stuff, and yet none of them are arrested. A man who quote unquote assaulted someone by protecting his kid when they were trying to get into the kid's face, right? He just sort of like pushed him back so that he could get his kid away. He ended up being, what was it, swatted or something by the FBI. And I think he's still in prison. And
Jeez.
that's thanks to the Biden administration. This just came to mind right now, but I think I remember someone had, I don't know if they they created an image of Muhammad or something, but I remember something happened that was distinctly against Islam, and Obama actually doxed the person. So that person's identity was not disclosed, and Obama was the person that revealed their identity. So, imagine being doxxed by the president. That was Obama defending Islam. So, and you can look that up, folks. That's a real thing. I remember it. I just can't remember what the guy did. Uh, but he ended up getting doxxed, and that was crazy. Uh, that was crazy to find out, being doxxed by the president. But um, yeah, so we just don't have this kind of thing happening to other religions. We have it being done to Christians and Christians alone. Culture is vehemently against Jesus, vehemently against his name, and there's some power in the name. There's some power in the name of Jesus. And I mean, we know this because even Jesus said it at the time when he was on earth. I mean, he said, hey, they're going to persecute you because they're persecuting me. They're going to hate you because they hated me first, right? And so 2,000 years later, and here we are in a supposedly free country, able to worship freely whoever we will, and yet Jesus is the one name that you can't put on a Coke can. Jesus is the one name that you can't say in open prayer. Jesus is the one name at which you cannot bring when you're in a military chaplaincy to evangelize. You cannot be Christian. I mean, it's just crazy to think. Dave, what do you think, man?
Like, I just, it's frustrating, and it's a thing, and it's not like, oh, typical Christian rhetoric, put a target on your back that really isn't there. You're whining. You can't just get along with everybody, and you're just trying to make yourself to sound like the victim, which is what you're accusing everybody else of doing. How ironic, you hypocrite. And it's very frustrating. But at the same time, I'm also I know that nothing's new under the sun. I know Christ was very straightforward with his disciples, and through his word, he's straightforward with us. That he is clear. We will be hated. The world will hate you. But we can take heart knowing that the world hated him first. So we tried. It's very difficult to try to turn the other cheek. And we're trying not to take things too personally when it is personal. You're attacking the person that you just think is some name, or the person that you're making fun of is an image bearer of the Lord, or the name that you're mocking is the name that saved me from hell and saved me from myself. And so it is personal. But at the same time, I can't be surprised when the world is doing what the world does. And I'm just thankful that the Lord loves his people and he restrains evil. So it's not as bad as it could be. That's for sure. And that, folks, you just need to be wise where and always assessing, have we become lackadaisical where we get hurt out of nowhere and we're like, how could the world treat us this way? How could the culture be treating us this way? And it's like, actually, uh, probably because you finally did something
Yeah.
for the Lord, or you stood up for something that's right and true, or and you tried to do the right thing and to stand on the word of God and to make his name known. As Dr. Naman always told us, uh, this isn't a catch-all. It's not all the time. One size fits all. But if you don't experience a whole lot of opposition as a Christian, you might not be that big of a threat for the gospel.
Yeah.
And so the culture is going to reflect the ruler of this world, right now, derived authority for a time. Uh, And so the world's going to reflect its master. And so we shouldn't be surprised. But
Yeah.
also speak out against it, folks. That's what we're doing with this episode real quick. Um,
Yeah. And in speaking out against it is actually, I think, one thing that we really should highlight with this episode is as well. I know that there are Christians out there, and it's crazy to think. Even I've known some missionaries that had the mindset of who cares. It's like, oh, we're being discriminated against. Yeah, who cares? You know what? It's like Christianity flourishes under persecution, so let it come. Like, are you out of your mind? Let's elect Hitler, so that he can try and gather us up and persecute us under the harshest government we've ever had, so that maybe our religion can grow a little bit better. It's like, no, that is not our mindset here. We are here, as Philippians 4:13 says, right? I can do all things through Christ. That being situation that you're in, we should be able to spread the gospel when we are both high or low, right? We should be able to spread the gospel when we're in prosperity or when we're in persecution. We can't be so lackadaisical. We can't be so lazy that when things get prosperous, we say, oh, well, we get lazier when we're prosperous, so we'll just wait till it goes down and we start getting persecuted. We'll wait till we get to the bottom of the road. No, how about getting off of your butt now and spreading the gospel? How about fighting the good fight where we're at right now? Yes, maybe in the future it is the Lord's will that some oppressive government will take hold and we will be in persecution. But do you want to be the person that says, oh man, like I could have so easily spread the gospel those 10 years ago, and it's so difficult now. Well, why didn't you do it then too? Right? It's like, we can't be people that are so cynically viewed in our theology that we're hoping that an oppressive government comes so that we can spread the gospel. We can't be those people. We need to be people that are fighting for what is right, fighting for what is good, fighting for what is just at every single moment. We are to be people that hold the line. And maybe that line will go past us, but we need to be people that are always fighting at that line.
oh man,
We have
that's
been fighting the line that is Roe v. Wade for how many years? And it only just happened recently. These were not Christians that said, oh, well, maybe when we get persecuted, maybe when our government gets destroyed and then we can stand up for life. No, they have been fighting at the line that has gone so far past them that abortion became the dominant view and so easily accessible. And yet those people were still very far up there with that line past them and said, no, this is where the line is. It is at conception. We are pro-life. We are for life and the sanctity of life. We are made in the image of God at conception. And that is the line that we are going to hold. And finally, with the Supreme Court justices picked, we have gotten that win because people were not willing to give up to culture. People were not willing to give up the line, but were willing to fight at every little inch of the battlefield. And folks, I mean, the battlefield is very much in the culture. It's very much in these social places like Coke not letting us write Jesus on a can. Dave, I don't know about you, man, but I was honestly thinking as we were coming into this episode, I was thinking the terrible marketing strategy of not allowing religious figures to be printed on a can. Muhammad, Buddha, Jesus, they're going to try and take the stance publicly that they're not allowing religious figures. Why? Are you kidding me? Think about how much money Coke would have if they allowed churches to print Jesus loves you on cans so that they can hand those out with it professionally printed at something like, I think it's like $7 a can. And yet some churches will spend that amount of money for 50, 100 cans so that they can send those out. And then maybe it'll, evangelistic, they'll spend that kind of money. And as a company who's trying to make money, you would think they would say, you know what, let let Muslims with mosques, let them print Muhammad on a can at $7 a can. Let churches that are these mega churches or whoever has the budget, let them print off 100 of them. Who cares? We're gonna make so much money off of religious figures, political figures. Go ahead, let people do MAGA or Trump or Harris or Kamala or all that stuff, right? We'll make so much money off of people paying for overpriced cans. And yet, what they did under the cover was they allowed all these things, but not Jesus. And yet, it is the name Jesus that is most evangelistic. It is the name Jesus that we want printed on the cans. It's the name Jesus, if they allowed it, that would be printed probably most. It doesn't even make financial sense. I mean, if you're really trying to make money, you would think that would be the one name that you would want on a can most.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get. Well, now my mind's just working. I'm not trying to get all conspiracy theorists near the end of the episode. It just makes me think like, well, is someone paying them more to not have it? I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's true.
But I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I'm not.
Heard it here. Dave said it. He's a conspiracy
Oh
theorist.
my God. Yeah, GLT whistleblower. It's like I'm not blowing any whistles. I didn't. I just. That's what you get for speculating. Uh, but yeah,
Dave
I
over
just.
here blowing more whistles than a referee. Whew.
You know what? But you know what? It's fine. I'll go find the can. I'll type he gets us, and and we'll be
Yeah.
okay.
He's greater than I.
Yeah. There you go. He's greater than I, and then but that's trademark, not allowed.
Oh, that's true.
So
Yeah.
we'll see if they'll let me do it though.
Oh, they'll
We'll see
allow
how
John,
trademark.
right? So maybe like John 3:16.
Oh, Yeshua.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeshu.
I was like, maybe Yeshua then.
Sorry, that's how I type, folks.
Him
I'll see if
writing
I
his
can get away with
papers
it.
took years.
Yeah, it did. I used all of my fingers. And okay, uh, but like, yeah, it does. It frustrates me because it's like, what? Uh, I get it. There are certain expletives and certain
Yeah,
slurs and things that I don't want to see. I don't want to see that on a Coke can.
right.
It, like, no one should. And I'm thinking of like even the sixth grader that thinks he's funny by putting it on a Coke can and taking it to school.
Yeah,
I don't want to see that. And so I understand, why you don't just allow anything to be printed on a can. That's not what I'm bashing against Coke. Okay, have a standard. It's the fact though that there is still inconsistencies, uh, and I hope they
right.
come out with a statement that I'm just saying, folks, at least in this particular instance, it would be mind-boggling to look at a Christian and say, I don't know how you could take this personally and be offended by it. Like, how could you it's like, how could I not feel singled out? Like, I feel like I can almost type anything in except Jesus. And that's the thing. We know that name's offensive, actually. It has no reason to be offensive. People are offended. His name is not offensive. Um, but I've already said this, and I don't want to repeat myself. But the scriptures are clear. We're going to be hated. Christ was hated. It comes with the territory, and so it bothers us. It should bother you. Uh, this is one of those instances where you have freedom. You could turn the other cheek and be like, you know what? I don't drink Coke. I'm not going to really let it bother me. And that's good. I don't really feel like I'm letting it bother me either by talking about it right now. So,
Yeah,
um, you can stand where you want to stand. I'm not saying this is a hill to die on, but it is amazing where it's like, usually we have Christians in the past in the name of turning the other cheek or trying to love our neighbor, we just let things slide. But how is it loving to let someone do something that's really not okay and, or fair in the name of justice to continue? So I'm thankful for that dude for posting it, because some people probably don't even care. They just made their can and went on with it. But at least we have this dude making a nice video for us to be able to talk about.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm on the site now, just seeing if it's still up. They have updated the site, just
Interesting.
just so you know, so that it will actually include a ban on Muhammad, Buddha, Trump, and Harris now. Um,
Why do you have to look it up? I mean, I guess it's better before we end the episode, and then we have to go back and correct it. But
yeah, no,
really,
I
at
just
least it's fair.
I mean they've equalized it now in I think in response to the backlash. So I'm actually kind of happy to be able to give that update. Um, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do is if it was still live to be able to provide the evidence live as well. But I did think that this was going to happen as sort of a, to be honest, I actually thought that their move would be to allow Jesus, seeing that it's such a common name, right? It's not like Buddha where we know that that's a particular figure, or Satan where that's a particular figure. I thought that they would input Jesus as a common name and allow it, but they didn't. They're doubling down on Jesus as a religious figure name. Poor people that are named Jesus, you know, but have added on Muhammad. So they've equaled out the discrimination against religious figures and political figures. So that's where they're at right now. That's sort of the update on that. They have equalized everything. But like I said, that honestly makes no sense if you want to make money. So I think it's a bad choice by Coke. Um, I guess it's one of the ways to really move into that. But we'll see what they do after that. So yeah, still not allowing Jesus, and that's the funniest thing to me. Jesus and Muhammad, very, very common names. If you're talking about, because Islam is so big in the Middle East and spreads across other places, that is an extremely common name as well. So I would have really thought that Jesus and Muhammad would have been fixed to be allowed on Kokens. Obviously not Allah, but I think this is just sort of speaking to the idea of like they're actually against religion, um, not necessarily against the names. I think this is a distinctly religious battle that's being waged right now, and they have every right. They have every right to do with whatever they want on their product, but they made a mistake. Um, we called them out on the mistake, and they doubled down on as far as which side they were going to go on. um, so we'll see how this pans out. I'd really like to see an update response from Coke, and yeah, that doesn't change anyways though, especially what we were talking about. I mean, as we just said, Coke was just a springboard to the topic that we were talking about today. By no means is Coke, if they allow Jesus to the expense of other religions, by no means is that going to stop what has been happening. And this is, like I said, just one more thing that has just come up in culture against Jesus, because it's by no other name. And I just keep emphasizing that it is by no other name. So, folks, I just want to encourage you today with this episode, as Dave and I went through and we tried to talk about as much as we could, culture and how it's against us, culture how it has historically been against us, naming a few times that has happened, and then even most recently with this Coke can debacle that is happening. It is because of the name. It is because of what that means, what that signifies. It is because by no other name can you be saved except on Jesus Christ. By no other name can you come to the Father except through him. By no other name is there power in the blood. And so it is that name. It is that name that the world is going to actively be against. With that, when you feel culture being against you, when you feel us being pressed against, brothers and sisters, take courage and let that fuel the fire of your heart and your zeal for the Lord, and trusting in that name that culture and companies and the world itself will try and stamp down. Let's band together here, folks, and let's continue to build each other up in the one name that won't be put on a Coke can. Well, with all that being said, we are excited to keep going down this season. I mean, we talked about this earlier, folks. Season 3 is an action-packed season, and we have a lot more coming up down the line. Dave and I already know a few episodes that are coming up, and I can tell you, you will want to be tuned with in these. So be tuned in every week. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share these episodes with loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe, right? Ring that notification bell so that when our episode drops every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, you get that notification. That way you never miss an episode. And let us know what you thought about this down in the comments section. Are you going to be switching to a different type of cola? Are you going to be on Shasta? Are you going to be on Pepsi? Are you going to forgive Coke because now that they've equalized, not allowing Muhammad? Or do you think that's just sort of a Band-Aid to the first mistake that they made, and that was making it so clear that they are against Jesus? Let me know what you think down in the comments section. In the meantime, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. See ya.